Ah yes, Macross, one of the most beloved anime franchises of all time. While not as exposed and milked out like the Gundam franchise, it is still considered a classic in Japan, being very innovative in a lot of ways, from the excellent coming-of-age story to the fantastic musical scores. So of course there will be games based off the Macross franchise. Most of the games from the franchise do look pretty decent at best, but the first game, released on the Famicom, was an atrocious pile of shit. It sucks as Troy's mutated ballsack. Of course, since Macross was one of the most popular animes in Japan during the 1980s, I wasn't surprised that this game turned out to be a very rushed and very bad product. When you boot up the game, the title screen looks promising, but what's with the stock music? Where's the Macross theme? Anyway, when you press start, you're treated to a little scene where Lin Mei rings a gong. I really don't understand why though. And then you're thrown into the game. At first it looks promising. It's a side-scrolling space shooter where you go around in space shooting up a bunch of Zentradi mechs, but believe me, this is where the trouble begins. The controls are okay, but the movement is off. Sometimes it's stiff, but other times it feels slippery and fast depending on what mode you're in. The select button actually fires your missiles, but they always seem to miss and do little to no more damage than your regular weapon. So honestly, what's the point? B shoots the gun pod, and pressing A while holding down the specific direction of the D-pad lets you transform into your different modes. Unfortunately, only one of them is useful. Your default mode is a jet mode, but it's probably the worst mode of all. It can't rapid fire, therefore you need to constantly tap the fire button just to spam your gun pod. The jet mode makes you move very fast, which is good for speeding through a stage, not good at all for combat because of the way the enemies move in the game, which I will get into. And you also move up and down the screen very slowly, so honestly it's really useless. The second form, which should be the most enjoyable part of the game, is your robot mode, or Batroid mode. It moves the fastest out of all of the forms, but it's the only mode where you can shoot in both directions all over the screen. Well, not all over the screen, but straight. But you can move all over the screen very fast, by the way. Problem is, 90% of the enemies come from the right side of the screen, as they can pop up randomly at any point on the right side of the screen, and very rarely would you want to shoot in the back. So I really don't recommend the robot mode either. The only decent mode is the Gerwalk mode, which is the mode where Jet gets arms and legs. It rapid fires, and its movement is decent, but it's still pretty stiff. The graphics are okay for a game made in 1985, so I'm not going to criticize the graphics, but what I will criticize is how this game is both bland and ridiculously hard at the same time. My first issue is that the enemies move too fast. There are projectiles that move too fast as well, and they have such a ridiculous pattern of moving. They go into loop-de-loops, they can like just fly all over the place. It just makes it very hard to predict where they're going to end up in. You can shoot them down, but sometimes the bullets go right through them. You have to be dead center just to kill them. There are power-ups that can increase your power bar. Some of them also amplify your gun and give you more missiles, but it doesn't help much. Why couldn't they just make the enemies move a bit slower so you can actually react in time? You can't even dodge them properly. You can try your best, but you're bound to get hit sooner or later. Now, I'm actually lying. There is a way to avoid most of the enemies. Just scroll to the far bottom right and let everything pass you. Look at this shit. What is the point of shooting these guys down when you can just avoid most of them? Now, this isn't always bound to work, but why would you do this at all? You play a shooter game to shoot stuff down. My biggest problem with the game is that it is incredibly repetitive. I understand it's an early space shooter, but come on, they could have come up with something, you know? It's basically going on in an infinite loop, except it gets more impossibly hard every time. When you eventually get to a Zentradi battleship, all you have to do is shoot the pellets inside the generators like so much Star Wars, and boom, you beat the stage, right? But guess what? Now you gotta do the same shit all over again. Shoot some more Zentradi, get to the battleship, and blow it up. Rinse and repeat. Now I know that there are other levels in the game, as well as other enemy types unlike the ones I'm showing you, but I can't even get past the second stage because the enemies flying in are almost as fast as the Red Comet himself. Ah shit, I died. Wait, what? I gotta do the whole stage all over again? Of course, if you die 3 times, it's game over. And you would have to play the whole thing all over again. As for music, you would expect them to use iconic songs from the anime, like Macross, Dogfighter, or even Do You Remember Love, right? Nope, not at all. Throughout the entire damn time, only one song is played, an 8-bit rendition of Shao Pai Long, which is a song Minmay sang in Macross Do You Remember Love. It's nice to hear it the first time, but after a while, it will drive you up the wall. Well, you know what? I had enough of this pile of space dust. Overall, it was a piece of shit game that was rushed out of development just to tie into the Macross film that was airing at the time. I say, stay the hell away from this game, even if you are the biggest Macross fan, because you won't find a blue shiny planet within this distance.